Good morning and welcome to this decision meeting for the portfolio, which is Culture, Leisure and Economic Development. I'm Councillor Steve Pitt. Welcome everyone. Okay, a little bit of housekeeping before we get started. If the continuous fire alarm sounds, please evacuate the room, a public gallery by the stairwells. Do not attempt to use the lifts. Please assemble by Queen Victoria's statue in Guildhall Square. In order to comply with the Guildhall Trust Fire Marshal regulations, anyone who signed in at Guildhall reception desk should sign out when leaving the building at the end of today's meeting. May I draw everyone's attention to the fact that this meeting will be live streamed. Everyone speaking via a microphone will be on camera, including those making deputations, although there aren't any this morning. Members of the press and public are also permitted to record the meeting on the understanding that it neither disrupts the meeting nor records those stating explicitly that they do not wish to be recorded. Please can everyone use the microphones, and they're autonomous for this meeting. You don't need me to cue them in, switch them off when they've finished. Okay, we'll do introductions first. So, as I said, I'm Councillor Steve Pitt. I'm the Cabinet Member for Culture, Leisure and Economic Development, and we are supported today from Democratic Services by...
Karen Martin.
Thank you very much indeed, Karen. Back row first, Sue.
Sue Page, Finance.
Thank you.
Jane Mee, Museums and Visitor Services.
Museums and Visitor Services.
And our opposition spokespeople present today.
Councillor Russell Simpson, Hilsey Ward.
Councillor George Fielding, Central South Sea Ward, Labour Group.
Good morning and welcome to everyone. Okay, we have no apologies for absence to record. I also have to update you on the public health guidance due to COVID-19. Following the government announcement living with COVID-19 made on the 21st of February and the end of universal testing from the 1st of April, attendees are no longer required to undertake any asymptomatic lateral flow test within 48 hours of the meeting. However, we still encourage attendees to follow the public health precautions we have followed over the last 2 years to protect themselves and others, including vaccination and taking a lateral flow test should they wish. We strongly recommend that attendees should be double vaccinated and have received any boosters they are eligible for. If unwell, we encourage you not to attend the meeting but to stay at home. Updated government guidance from the 1st of April advises people with a respiratory infection or high temperature and who feel unwell to stay at home and avoid contact with other people until they feel well enough to resume normal activities and no longer have a high temperature. From the 1st of April, anyone with a COVID-19 test result, positive one, is still being advised to follow this guidance for 5 days, which is a period when you're most infectious. We encourage attendees to wear a face covering while moving around crowded areas of the Guildhall. Although not a legal requirement, attendees are strongly encouraged to keep a social distance and take opportunities to prevent the spread of infection by following the hands, face, space and catch it, kill it, bin it advice that protects us from cough, colds and winter viruses, including COVID-19. Hand sanitizer is provided at the entrance and throughout the Guildhall. All attendees are encouraged to make use of hand sanitizer on entry to the Guildhall. Those not participating in the meeting and wish to view proceedings are encouraged to do so remotely via the live stream link. Okay, on to today's agenda. We have no apologies for absence. Do we have any declarations of interest? No. Okay, that's fine. Item 3 on the agenda today then will be the Landing Craft Tank 7074, provision for future maintenance. This is pages 7 to 20 of your committee papers for today, and the purpose is to describe the provision in place for the maintenance of the Landing Craft Tank. So over to Dr. Jane Mee.
Thank you very much, Councillor Pitt. So just a couple of points to mention in terms of background. The Council has proactively supported and facilitated the Landing Craft Tank project on a range of fronts, although formally its main role has been the delivery of the project activity plan, and since May 2021, the operation of Landing Craft Tank 7074 as an integral part of the D-Day story. And for information, all the final project reports are now with the National Lottery Heritage Fund. I'm not sure whether the National Museum of the Royal Navy has been paid yet. And the main focus in recent months has been finalising the legal documentation that underpins the project, that is the lease and the operator agreement. And these set out the role and responsibilities of the two partners, Portsmouth City Council and the National Museum of the Royal Navy, who owns the ship. And one of the key obligations for the partnership is the cost of maintaining the heritage, ship and tanks and the canopy, which protects both. There's a number of paragraphs just talking about how successful the Landing Craft Tank has been since opening and the positive impact it's had on the D-Day story. And obviously the public location of Landing Craft Tank on the Common It's very iconic, very eye-catching, and that's been beneficial to the museum. And Landing Craft Tank is now it's supported by staff, but there's a strong and very well-trained team of volunteers, very highly committed, who are enabling us to open Landing Craft Tank to the public. And so that's hugely positive. 58,800 visitors have stepped on board Landing Craft Tank since opening in December 2020. People of all ages from the UK and beyond. We continue to receive positive impact from those with personal connections, but also those who are interested in the history of the city. And there's a nice quote in the report. Wow, 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 this is a world-class experience. To be able to see the last surviving landing craft from D-Day was an unforgettable and memorable experience. So that's a TripAdvisor. So to get to the main body of the report, which is the focus of which is maintenance, the specialists involved in the project prepared management and maintenance plans for the cost of care over a 10-year period. That is for the landing craft tank, for the canopy, and for the 2 D-Day tanks which sit on board the vessel. And alongside the management and maintenance plans, we also have a business plan that says how the money is going to be generated and to be spent. And that was prepared by external specialists. So the idea is that Landing Craft Tank generates a surplus year on year. So we operate the vessel, we charge the admission fee, we do some ongoing basic maintenance, but at the end of the year there will be a pot of money, a surplus, that we will carry forward in order to cover the costs of more demanding, bigger pieces of maintenance work, for example, a repaint of the ship should that be required. So it just gives us some resilience going forward, and the only outstanding piece of work to do really is to put a vehicle in place to oversee how the sinking fund is spent. So that's that, and then but should the surplus not generate enough money at some point in the future, the legal documentation also makes it clear who is responsible for what in that circumstance. So the National Museum of the Royal Navy would be responsible for the ship, and the council would be responsible for the canopy and the 2 tanks. Other than that, the 2 partners will work together to ensure the successful operation of Landing Craft Tank as an attraction and the maintenance of the heritage assets to the highest possible standard. So it's just making sure that we know who's doing what going forward, should we not generate enough of a surplus. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jane. Just to reassure you, I met with the National Museum last week and they have now received the payment from the National Natural Heritage Fund, so that's everything done and dusted on that front, which is great news. The LCT is already an award winner, I believe. Have you got any further details that you could share with us?
It won an award as a conservation project. It was a joint winner. I think that was a Museum and Heritage Award. More recently, it's the people who designed the steel element of the canopy. This is in a national competition, have been awarded a merit for the work on the canopy, for the steel element. And then most recently of all, the Portsmouth Society have included Landing Craft Tank, the canopy in particular, in their design awards. And apparently we're a finalist, so we'll hear before the end of the month whether we're a winner as well as a finalist.
Excellent, thank you very much. Members, any comments, any questions?
Nothing in particular other than to say I've had the pleasure of visiting Landing Craft Tank and it's a wonderful facility, and anything we can do to use any surplus to go back into the future maintenance of it would make complete and utter sense.
Russell, anything?
Let's just get it done.
Yeah, it has indeed been an incredibly successful project, and The partnership with the National Museum of the Royal Navy has been very valuable, and we look forward to that relationship continuing. And as Jane said, the vehicle for operation of the maintenance fund is now the remaining outstanding item. We weren't actually able to progress that until we had the operating agreement and the lease signed, and that's all done. The money's drawn down from the National Lottery Heritage Fund, so this is the last stage that we'll move into now. So thank you very much, Jane. Just for any members of the public watching, the recommendations on the report are that I note the positive response to the landing craft tank since it opened. I think I have. Approves the transfer of the surplus made through the Operation Landing Craft Tank LCT 7074 to a sinking fund, which I do. Notes that the responsibility for the maintenance of LCT 7074 rests with both the National Museum and the Royal Navy operations, which is not the National Museum itself, it's a separate bit which is their operations, and the responsibility of the maintenance of the canopy which protects the ship and the 2 D-Day tanks rests with Portsmouth City Council. That's noted, and notes that the provision is made in the LCT 7074 project business plan for annual maintenance of LCT 7074, the canopy and tanks, and that the sinking fund described at 2.1 in the report will be used for more significant interventions which will be required every 3 to 5 years or so. That's also noted. So thank you very much for that. We now move on to item 4 on the agenda today, which is the Transforming the D-Day Museum project completion, contained in pages 21 to 24 of today's papers, and the purpose is to summarise the completion of the implementation phase of the project to transform the D-Day Museum into the D-Day story that took place between 2016 and 2022. And to speak on the report today, we have with us, nice to see Felicity Wood, who is the Public Participation Officer, and Jane Mee again, please. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So the project led to the transformation of the D-Day Museum into the D-Day story, which has become a modern, world-class, award-winning museum. Alongside the transformation of the building was a wide range of activities that were designed to engage more and a wider range of people with the museum, and also they contributed to the achievement of the city vision. The project, as we know, is made possible by the National Lottery Heritage Fund, but also the time of staff, volunteers, and members of the local Portsmouth community and further afield. Just to sort of summarise the changes to the museum itself, the building was reconfigured, this new retail space was created, a new learning and events space was created, the area around the museum has been landscaped, and there's been the creation of a really bold new cosmopolitan brand, which I'm sure you won't have missed, that runs through all the museum's activities. Another key part of this project was to change the way that we were telling the story of D-Day, so identifying audiences, telling a proper story for those audiences throughout the displays, and telling the personal stories of people, using the personal stories of those that were actually there and the artefacts that they had donated to the museum to tell those stories. There was a huge amount of time and effort putting into ensuring the displays are accessible, so consultation with local disability forums, and the museum has won awards for accessibility, so we won the Accessible and Inclusive Attraction category at the Beautiful South Awards. We won a Silver Award. It also enabled the conservation of the Overlord embroidery, an incredibly impressive piece that's now people who visit are able to see it in even better clarity and detail because it's been conserved and the glass for the cases has been changed. But there was also, without it turning into a huge list, there was a very ambitious and wide-ranging programme of activities to attract different audiences, including people that wouldn't normally visit the museum. Managed by the Public Participation Officer, so managed by myself, it made a strong contribution to the values set out in Portsmouth City Vision, such as having a healthy and happy city rich in culture and creativity, and a commitment to lifelong learning. One example is the D-Day 75 Community Project. So that took place in 2019, and groups from across the city uncovered the D-Day heritage of their D-Day heritage or the heritage of the local area, and interpreted it for other people through kind of displays and artwork and a range of activities. We also had 3 paid internships for young people to give them vital skills of working in museums. From a commercial point of view, from the outset, the museum has achieved its income targets for admissions. Obviously, the 75th anniversary of D-Day, 2019 to 2020, was very successful, but even during the coronavirus pandemic, visitor figures were above those experienced by the sector in general. And the appointment of a general manager for the museum has given it a focus and helped to grow the offer and helped to unlock the commercial potential of the museum. For example, creating a group offer that's been very popular to build audiences and encourage group visits and repeat visits, and the creation of like a layered offer, so that having lots of different things to appeal to different types of different markets, so having an audio guide in different languages and a escape room style trail for the museum as well for families. The museum has won multiple awards, one of which the late and much missed John Jenkins won Museum Volunteer of the Year Award at the National Museum and Heritage Awards in 2019, but the museum was also a finalist for the European Museum of the Year. And finally, at the end of the report, there is a breakdown of the finances for the report, which included donations from Victorious, the Dolverton Trust, Garfield Weston, but also cash donations from members of the public. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Felicity. It's been a really thoroughly enjoyable and exciting project to deliver, hasn't it? I think one of my highlights was coming down when the Gustav the Pigeon soft toy and book launch happened, and seeing those young people with learning difficulties who'd engaged with that process and who'd clearly absolutely loved it. So that was just one example of what's gone on, and I also think that although much of the museum is new in as much as the displays have changed, the reinterpretation of the embroidery and the way it's now lit and the glass has also been a bit of an unexpected star, I think. I don't think anybody really expected that it would lift it that much, but it really has. And it was wonderful to attend John's 100th birthday in there, which, in fact, goodness, happened before COVID struck and before we sadly lost him, but a wonderful opportunity to celebrate a long life well lived. So thank you very much for that. Members, any comments or questions? George, no? Russell, no? In which case, thank you very much, and nice to see you today. Thanks for joining us. So, item 5 is the monitoring of the first quarter 20. Just sounds very formally worded there, doesn't it? First quarter monitoring report 22-2023, and that's over to Sue Page, please. If anyone's watching online and you're looking at reports, it's on pages 25 to 30.
Thank you. Yes, this is the
Oh,
forecast.
Sue, could you just swing your microphone around a little bit?
Sorry.
Thank you.
This is the forecast of the outturn for your against your revenue budget based on the information we had in the first quarter. So, as you can see in the initial paragraph, the portfolio is showing an overspend of 1,030,000, but a significant amount of that is related to energy costs. They are actually slightly higher. So once you take out those significant items, you've got a net underspending of £12,000. In the Cabinet report back in September 27th, it was agreed that these additional energy costs across the Council will be met from corporate contingency. There's some explanations within the body of the report on the individual areas if you need to look at those. And the last point I would make is that, as you know, historically, any underspendings on the portfolio go towards the portfolio reserve at the end of the year. But at the moment, you're only talking about £12,000, and there's no other uncommitted balances on this portfolio. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Sue. I'm not normally political in these decision meetings, but the £1 million pressure caused by energy costs, which apparently the government has zero interest in addressing and expects us to eat into valuable reserves that have been carefully accumulated to deal with pressures across Portsmouth City Council during a period of extended austerity, and their lack of clarity about exactly what they're doing for us on energy costs, because I know that that's not clear, and their decision not to revisit last year's local government financial settlement, saying that there won't be any cuts. Well, it just shows the ineptitude of not understanding that unfortunately 9.9% inflation when we were anticipating 2% and no uplift means that actually that's an 8% cut after 14 years of cuts to local government. So I do hope the government, with its latest Chancellor, is going to address some of these issues, because otherwise the impact on local government nationally is going to be absolutely catastrophic, and that's really not to be underestimated in any way. I can foresee a period of really very difficult decisions having to be made across councils all over this country. The irony, of course, being that some of those that will go bankrupt first are the Conservative-run counties, but hey-ho. Members, any comments?
I'll just echo your words on the situation we find ourselves in. It's, yeah, what can I say?
Well, that's the thing. What can you say? Worth noting for anyone watching online, I'm not being party political, because the LGA chair, who is actually a member of the Conservative Party, has said pretty much what I've just said in his latest weekly statement. So this is something that all parties across local government are unified on, and that's a good thing to see. Russell, anything?
Yeah, just to... George is always stealing my thunder with, just to echo really what you said, and hopefully we've got the 1 million spare.
Well, we don't, but we have to use it, because otherwise we'll wreck our finances in year. It makes you wonder why you bother to show financial prudence, really, doesn't it, when the government just pours all over it on a regular basis and sets fire to it. But it is what it is. So apologies if I've upset anyone who's listening online, but I like to speak the truth, and that is the truth and the reality of where we find ourselves. Thank you to officers for attending today and delivering reports, very helpful. Thank you to Councillor Fielding on behalf of the Labour Group, and Councillor Russell Simpson on behalf of the Portsmouth Independents for joining us, and thank you to Dem Services for supporting the meeting as usual, and I hope everybody has a good rest of the day.